The cold sorbet bit into Wine's knees as she scrubbed the hallway tiles, her fingers raw and red, knuckles cracked with overuse. A metal bucket clanked against her, sloshing dirty water onto her skin. Ilsa, didn't I tell you to clean the guest wing twice? The sharp voice of the head made Ilsa break from the doorway, arms crossed over her stiff black uniform. Wine, I'm still finishing the East Hall, ma'am. Ilsa, oh, so you get to decide what comes first now? Ilsa sneered and kicked the bucket over, water soaking Wine's skirt and knees. Another maid laughed under her breath, standing beside Ilsa with folded sheets she hadn't ironed. That's a problem now, she said. Little Miss Florat will handle it like always. It had always been this way. Ever since Wine came here 5 years ago, she had been the lowest in the hierarchy for the sprawling estate owned by Lady Huang, widowed, worldly, and strict beyond reason. Wine was the youngest, and unlike the others who were born into stock families or hired through agencies, she had simply arrived. She had no guardian to look after her. Being the youngest, she was bullied by other maids as well, who threw all the workload on her. There was nothing she could do about that. Being bounded by the shackles of cruelty and injustice, she was just surviving every day, hoping for tomorrow to be a little better. That morning there was even more pressure than usual. Word had spread. A very honored guest was visiting the estate. A man with power, wealth, and prestige. Every maid rushed like ants under the sun, tossing commands left and right, but only Wine got theirs all. She wasn't just scrubbing the floors. She had washed all the sheets, ironed the uniforms of other maids, cleaned the chandeliers, and even polished shoes that weren't hers to begin. And when Elsa forgot to prepare the guest book or spilled wine on the tablecloth, it was Wine who got slapped for not checking it twice. 5 years ago, she was just 16, living in a small but warm village house with her aunt, the only relative who hadn't turned her away after her parents died in a car accident. Her aunt had debts, and to settle them, she gave wine away as help to one of the creditors who knew Lady Huang. Only for a year, they promised. She will be safe there. But that year turned into 5 and no one ever came back for her. The atmosphere shifted the moment the luxury car rolled into the courtyard. Everybody lined up against the manor, from the stable boys to the kitchen staff. Lady Huang stood in the center dressed in her richest maroon velvet gown. If someone was missing, that was Wine, forced behind by the work burden of others. The car door opened and time itself seemed to pause. A tall man stepped out, clad in a designer black suit, his dark hair slicked back, features sharp and commanding. He radiated silent authority. No logo was needed on his watch or his cufflinks. His very presence screamed power. Lady Huang, Mr. John, it's an honor to host you. Jungkook nodded once. The staff girls were nearly swooning. Even Elsa stood straighter, tapping at her lipstick with the corner of her sleeve. Usually, Lady Huang's guests were all from elite class, handsome and all well mannered, but none of them ever saw a man this manly and charming. The whispers grew among them, squealing and crushing over the man who had held an aura of a devil none of them could survive. Lady Huang led Jungkook inside, smiling and chatting about his empire, how impressive it was in 5 years. He rose from just being an intern abroad to owning the very company that now funded half the state's wine exports. But they didn't know what those 5 years had cost him. When Jungkook was 17, his father's company collapsed. Debt collectors came. He was pulled from school, dragged abroad by a distant uncle to work in a mechanic's shop. So he worked day and night, took every brutal job, sleep on oil stained floors, learned to invest, learned to fight, learned to conquer, and every time he wanted to quit, he remembered the girl. The one with laughter in her voice and bruises on her knees. The girl who would appear in his dreams and take his worries away. It was not after 4 minutes. His entrance in the mansion, wine rushed out, her breath irregular, knees hurt, and hands filled with calluses. Yet there was hope in her eyes. She truly wanted to be there to attend whatever guest was visiting. She did all the work, finished it all, and rushed her, but unfortunately the guest had already gone in, and the welcome ceremony was over. The little hope in those eyes died slowly, going back to those dead eyes which only knew how to scrub floors and tolerate violence. Ilsa, make sure the wine is warmed and clean the dishes with blue cloth only. Go clean the upstairs guest room. She snapped as soon as wine went inside. Wine, I did it this morning. Ilsa glared. Ilsa, if I tell you to clean it 100 times, then you do that exactly. Don't forget. Lady Huang took you in out of her generosity. The least you can do is pay her back with your hard work. Wine. Yes, I'll go clean the room. She grabbed her things and quietly left the room. Her knees were aching, feet swelled, eyes dizzy, with the amount of work she did as compared to the food she ate. As she turned the corner, distracted by the weight and sting in her eyes, the bucket of water in her hand slipped. Crash! Brown grey water splashed in every direction, some soaking into the pristine carpet, some landing near a polished shoe. A shoe attached to the very man the manor was trying to impress, gasped, echoed like a ripple into still water. Maids immediately gathered at a distance to somehow resolve the mistake she made, a stain to their honor. Wine, what have you done? You stupid, filthy. Jungkook did not flinch. He stood still, the room blurred around him. All he could see was her. Their fragile frame, those trembling hands, their face, pale, thinner than before, streaked with exhaustion and fear, but unmistakably her. He knew her, the girl with sunshine smile that appeared in his dreams. His best friend, his Vian, the one he spent his entire childhood with before he was forced out of country by his uncle. The question was, what happened to her? She was too thin, her hands and knees bruised. Jungkook, Vian? So we are extremely sorry for the girl's incompetence. She'll face proper punishment for also rushed, but before once Jungkook looked up at her with those blazing eyes, she halted. Wine widened her eyes. She might not have changed, but he, Jungkook, he was not the same boy from her village she used to hang out with. He had grown so much, made too many muscles, looked too strong that he could end you with a single touch. His physical appearance had changed too much that she knew their guest was someone wealthy, respectable, and untouchable. Just how much he changed while she was left wiping the floors. Could she still touch him like she used to? Her eyes teared up. It had been so long she saw his person in a world so lonely. She wanted to touch him. She wanted to hold. Then came his hand right behind side her head, pulling her into his embrace, tightly like he never wanted to let go ever again. Vine cried. All those years of silence bearing the cruelty came crashing down on her as she cried loudly in his embrace, finally breaking down. His arms tightened around her as the blood rose its temperature. He had written to Wine every month, but the letters were returned. She had vanished. No one from their village answered his calls. As soon as he returned to his country, the first goal was to look for Wine, but he had no idea this is how he was going to find her. People stood there, shocked and scared, as they heard her breaking down in Jungkook's embrace, where she was protected and none of them could ever say a word to her. Jungkook, who did this to you? His voice was low, calm, too calm, and that calmness was what made everybody's soul in that hallway tremble harder than if he yelled. Became underneath It was far an inferno of rage so cold it burned. Lady Huang, poised and calculating, stepped forward, smiling awkwardly. Lady Huang, Mr. John, this must be a misunderstanding. She's just a maid here. We treat all our workers according to. Jungkook's eyes snapped to her, dead, cold, void of mercy. Jungkook, so you treat them like dogs. Elsa paled visibly. The others made steps back. No one had ever dared raise a voice to Lady Huang, let alone challenge her authority in her own estate. But Jungkook, he wasn't just anyone. He was John Jungkook, and at that moment, he wasn't speaking as a guest. He was speaking as a man who had crossed oceans, built empires, and returned for the one person who ever mattered and found her on her knees. And now, he was going to make them pay for what they did to her. To be continued.